I'm a senior area manager for the U.S. Small Business Administration here in the territory. I represent SBAs, really all of what we do. So I know a lot, or I know a good amount about everything that SBA does in some extent, but I'm not an expert on any one particular area. I have experts in Puerto Rico and other offices that I can bring down to go in depth on things like government contracting or financing or some other aspects, but I can answer almost every question you can think of unless it's something really detailed. Today what I want to do is I want to give just an overall presentation on what SBA is, what we do here in the territory, kind of resources we have both here in the territory and available outside to you. But I want to reserve a lot of our time, especially since we're in a small group here, to gather feedback from you on what questions you have, on how we can help, and what questions you have about SBA or really just entrepreneurial resources here in the territory in general. Okay, so this is generally what we do. So at the SBA, again, we're a federal organization, and our whole purposes are to make sure small businesses across the United States have the resources to help them start, help them grow, and help them recover after a storm and expand to other markets as well. So all of what I'm going to talk about falls underneath that in some way. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is what we have in the way of resource partners. So SBA, as a federal agency, we're fairly small. Where I think we're considered a mid-sized agency in the federal government, but we have 3,000 or so employees to cover the entire United States. Other agencies, just to give you some perspective, I believe USDA has 100,000 people that work around the United States. We just have 3,000, and that counts all our staff, all our disaster staff, people in DC and others, and of course here we just have one person, and that's me. But we do a lot for a small agency, but the first thing we do is we recognize, for two reasons. One, we're government workers, we're not entrepreneurs. We're not necessarily in the best position to do a lot of one-to-one coaching for business owners. Now, I've worked with lots of business owners. I've had some businesses myself in the past. I have a lot of expertise, but as an agency, we find it's better to leverage those resources in the community and recruit others and provide funding to provide you the best possible resources for counseling and mentoring and support. And that's where our resource providers come in. So the first one I'm going to talk about is SCORE. Has anyone heard about SCORE before? Okay. The acronym came from the Service Corps of Retired Executives. They don't refer to themselves in that way anymore because they found that they were getting only retired executives to be mentors for others. And so they decided to be more reflective of their actual mentors, which are commonly current business owners in a bunch of different fields, not necessarily retired. They just go by SCORE. They are the largest business mentoring organization in the world. They have thousands of business mentors. These are people who have not only signed up to be a business mentor to others, but have also gone through some vetting process with the national organization and we've gone through training with the national organization to understand how to mentor others effectively. And they are giving a lot of tools that we've helped fund for them. So a typical SCORE relationship is, for instance, let's say someone, say Mr. Brown, you have your painting business. Perhaps there's a mentor in the SCORE organization who is a housing contractor or a contractor in some other way, and you were just starting out, you had no idea where to begin. You can contact SCORE and say, I just need some assistance and some guidance. They can connect you with that contractor, and you all can have coffee and talk and say, here's what you need to be looking at in your world as you get started. Here's how you get through the licensing process locally. Here's how, let's talk through the feasibility of your plan. Let me help you make some connections and so forth. Now, SCORE in the Virgin Islands is fairly new. It existed more than a decade ago in the Virgin Islands, but it was closed. It just didn't have as much activity. We've revived that in the past year through help from their national office in Virginia. We've had officials come down and recruit mentors here. So we have a small group of mentors. We're growing that. Right now, though, we are relying, or SCORE is relying on not only a few local volunteers, but also people throughout the United States. So if you go to usviscore.org, you will go to the local chapter's website. And if you're interested in speaking with a mentor, you just sign up and say, I'm interested in speaking with a mentor. Make sure you're on the USVI site. Give a little bit of information about who and what you are. That will go directly to the chapter directors here, but it'll also be seen by folks nationally as well. And they can pair you up with someone in the States who can get on the phone with you, Skype with you, or what have you, to talk about your particular business and your particular direction that you want to go and challenges you may have. There's always great value in having someone local, but sometimes an outside perspective can be helpful as well. The biggest and best counseling organization we have in the Virgin Islands right now is the Small Business Development Center. Small Business Development Center are also free consulting and offer also free consulting and free training. They are all over the United States. We provide far more funding to the Small Business Development Center than we do the SCORE because we want them to do more than mentoring. We want them to provide in-depth help. We want them to have access to research databases, to consultants outside of the SBDC, and we expect the SBDC staff members to be highly trained and professional. So what we do, but we still value the local partnership, and we want those SCORE mentors to be driven locally. So we partner with an organization here in the Virgin Islands. We partner with UVI. So we give UVI hundreds of thousands of dollars every year to run the Small Business Development Center program throughout the territory. So they have an office here with 2 business counselors, and Hazel, who is here, is their admin assistant. And then on St. Thomas, they have their state office with the director, their administrative staff, and other business counselors there that also work in St. John to help business advisors. They are so while SCORE is the largest business mentoring organization in the world, that's by virtue of the number of people they have as volunteers working for them. Small Business Development Center has the biggest reach throughout the country. So since we provide them more money, there's a national organization called the Association of Small Business Development Centers. And we require them to provide assistance on every piece of land throughout the country, including our territories and in Guam and everywhere. There's an SBDC assigned to be in charge of that territory for us. So there is the Virgin Islands EDA there in Frederiksted. They have an office also in St. Thomas, which is right next to SBDC. They offer programs too. Their primary resource for offering that counseling, though, is the SBDC. So the EDA says we offer technical assistance, and when you're signing up for that, then they're contacting the SBDC for that assistance. But they also have their own little program, which I can talk about more when we talk about funding as well. The federal government is the world's largest purchaser of goods and services in the world. There is no country, there is no company, there is nothing that is a bigger customer to have. So if you can have the federal government as your customer, you've got the biggest customer in the world that there is. So a lot of people want to do business with the federal government. It's it's not easy though, especially as a small business owner, to get in that door. Doing business with the federal government is not as easy as going over to the National Guard facility and knocking on the door and saying, I do X business, how can I work for you and do that? There's a lot of vetting because we're spending federal dollars, we're spending your money, and so there's a lot of oversight of that. And so we want to make sure that if a federal agency is spending your dollars, the federal dollars, taxpayer dollars, that we're doing it in the right places. We're not doing it with businesses that are owned foreign. We're doing it with people who are just the best possible place to spend money for the federal government. But that sam.gov is the place you go to enter your profile. You put in information on your business. It's free of charge. You have to attain what's called a DUNS number, which is sort of like a special ID number which recognizes your business. And that is sort of the yellow pages for the federal government. The federal government cannot provide contracts to entities that are not registered in sam.gov. So that's the first step. So to even really be considered, you have to be registered in there. The next thing you want to do as a small business owner, though, is obtain certifications that help you secure those contracts. So, as a federal contractor, it's very easy for a contracting specialist to give those contracts to large corporations because they are well-funded, they typically have a good track record, they have a lot of people, and it assures that contracting officer that they'll get the job done quickly. However, the federal government recognizes that if we are to grow as a country, today's small businesses need to have opportunities to grow and expand and be tomorrow's big businesses so that we can continue to expand. So we require federal agencies to have a goal of providing 23% of their contracts to small business owners each year. To compete for those is still very tough, so we also provide some special certifications to help small business owners compete for those contracts. I'm going to talk about a few of them. One is the 8A Business Development Program. We're not very creative in our wording. 8A is just the part of the federal nomenclature that identifies the law that identifies the program. But what this is a business development program for minority-owned and disadvantaged businesses. This provides coaching, technical support, and mentoring to small businesses who are wishing to compete for federal contracts. So if you are certified as an 8A business, you will be paired up with a business opportunity specialist at SBA. Our business opportunity specialists are out of Puerto Rico. They work with businesses here in the territory as well. Right? But the SBC can help. So they understand, for instance, what documents you need to get certified. They can help you go through and kind of review those to get the process. There's also something called a Procurement Technical Assistance Center. We don't have one here in Virgin Islands, but we do have one in Puerto Rico. They have a defined area that they're allowed to work with, which does not include the Virgin Islands, but we're hoping that's going to change. Our Small Business Development Center is working on a cooperative agreement with the Procurement Technical Assistance Center in Puerto Rico to assist businesses here in the territory. There's something unique about what they do that is special, of extra help. So I can speak to the federal contracting process. The Procurement Technical Assistance Center are experts in the federal contracting process, can help you identify contracting officers, can help you put together your proposals. So they will say, all right, here's a request for proposals. They can have a meeting with you to say, okay, let's make sure your proposal is hitting all the checkboxes they need to be considered effectively. But they can also assist with local government contracting. Okay, we're doing good. Is our SBA loan. So probably what people most recognize SBA for is our loans. With the exception of disaster, we do not provide loans directly. So you don't go to SBA and get a loan from SBA. And I'll talk about disaster separately in a second. You get a loan from a bank. Our role in the process is to reduce the risk for lenders so that they will be more likely to provide you a loan when you need it. You know, a common adage is a bank will give you a loan when you don't need it. And that's typically true. Because if you're needing cash, the bank will say, well, you're needing cash, you don't have the cash to pay a loan right now, so you're not going to get a loan. That's just how it works. But we know that banks need to, let me go to this part right here. Banks need to make money, and so they are kind of risk averse, and so we understand that. So our goal is to reduce the risk in their lending process. We provide a government guarantee to lenders to provide anywhere from 50% all the way up to 90%, depending on the type of loan, of a guarantee on that loan to say, if you lender provide this loan, and that loan goes bad, we will reimburse you up to 90% of that loan. So with that information, a bank, and that assurance, the bank will say, okay, well then that kind of opens up the door to some a little bit more risky loans I will consider doing. But we don't take all the risk from a loan, and we don't make a bad deal a good deal. We just make it a little bit more palatable for a bank. So They all have their own formula, they all have their own appetite for risk, which is why it's really difficult here in the Virgin Islands, because we only have 5 lenders that are here in the territory making loans commercially. And typically in the States, you have hundreds of lenders in the community, so you can get lots of no's. It's just a matter of finding that one out of 50 or 100 that are willing to do a deal in your type of business. But here we only have 5 to choose from locally. In Lender Match, you can go in, you say, I'm interested in speaking to a lender. We will ask you those questions. Are you incorporated? Where's your business? What are you looking for? Do you have money? How long have you been in business? And we will send that out to every lender in our database who said, I'm interested in looking at deals in the Virgin Islands. So we have thousands of lenders across the country. Right now, we only have about 10 lenders that are looking at deals in the Virgin Islands, but that's double the amount that we have here in the territory. So that's more lenders. So my goal is to get more lenders looking at Lender Match and looking at those. We also have micro lenders in the territory. There's an approved micro lender out of Puerto Rico that recently was licensed to work here in the territory called COFEC, C-O-F-E-C-C. They specialize in loans from $1,000 to $50,000 to help people with their businesses. These micro loans are typically have a little bit more flexibility. They have higher interest rates, but it's a little bit easier to get a loan approved through a micro lender if you're looking to get a loan that small. But the number one place to go through to get a loan is to start with your SBDC. Let them know what you're looking for, and they can help you with your pitch. They're really well versed in accounting, financial statements, and they know exactly what lenders are looking for, and they will help you in the process. They have helped with even the local banks. Even though I know that it's tough with local banks, they've helped some deals get done for borrowers with local banks. And I always suggest, if you do any banking locally, if you have a personal account, especially if you have a business account with any of the local lenders, it's where you want to start, but don't limit yourself to them. So I just give a very broad overview of SBA's programs and what we do at a general level. What questions do you have that I may be able to assist with about SBA, just about entrepreneurship resources?